Today is Echo. What is today?
Today is Tuesday, June 29th.
There you got it, June 29th. Not too long since my last update, but I started on a couple other things and just wanted to make some notes here of what I got going on. I'd started my first deck beam lamination. This is a short one, of course, only 8 feet. I don't know. You know, I put all these bolts in, threaded rod in, so that I could clamp them, and I cut all those little wooden blocks to sit in there to clamp down on them. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't like the way that's working, I guess. Be the best way to say it. This needs 6 of them. I've only got 4 pieces in there. Excuse me. So, yeah. I don't know. It's awful futzy, and I, of course, once I get the height of these established, I could lower these bolts down so I didn't have all this, excess rod sticking up here. But I don't think I'm going to use that rod. I think I'm going to take those out. I think what I'll do is take a 2x8 or something, take all these bolts out, put a 2x8 in on this side coming up this way, or whatever I need, 2x10, 2x8. To give me a surface to butt these up against, and to clamp against, something to clamp against. And then just use all clamps. I actually ordered some more clamps, some more this type of bar clamps, small bar clamps. They aren't that terribly expensive, so. And that's going to make it a lot easier, I think. A lot easier to get them lined up and in place. Yeah, because this one's only 8 feet long. When I get to 16 feet, well, not 16 feet, but they'll be 14 plus. It's going to be even more clamps and more fussing around. So anyway, there's that. I think this one will work all right, but I'm going to pull these threaded rods off of this mold form and just use clamps. But like I said, something on the back side to clamp to keep them all in alignment, I think is going to help. Okay, and another thing I started working on, you can see I got my portable scaffolding out, or set up anyway, for working up here. And I got a couple battens up there. And I started cutting the angle in these, and I'm using the power planer. You can see, that was originally flat. That edge right here was originally flat, and now it's at an angle to accept the planking. And I was kind of worried about that, that being a huge, horrible job. And George said you should, cut those ahead of time. But the way I built these frames, in 2 pieces and then overlapped, and it was going to be really hard to cut that angle in ahead of time. So I've been using the hand power plane, and that's actually working really well. I was a little concerned when you got to these plywood edges here. I was a little concerned about that, but it's handling that just fine, so no issues there. What I am having some troubles with, though, is fairing it. You want a nice smooth line, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, the boat's not gonna go wonky or have problems or whatever if it's not perfectly fair. And I don't know. You can see, probably not. You can see in there. Frame number 40, which is this one right here, always seemed like it was a little shy, like it didn't, it needed to come out a little more, like I was going to have to put a shim in it. But now that I got those cut down a little bit, it doesn't look as bad as it did. It is still a little bit if you get lower. If you get down here lower, so number 40 still seems to be a little shy. But you can see the next one down from it right now, number 42 now looks like it's a little low, or the next one behind it, 44, is a little proud. I don't know. Yeah. And as you start getting in here more towards the center of the boat, these frames really do become quite flat. They almost aren't going to need any machining at all. Need a little bit, but it's not going to be nearly as bad as I had envisioned. It'll probably be a little bit tougher down here. Of course, it's easier to reach, but I'll have to get a chisel out and do the, when I go to angle these will need to be cut at a bit of an angle like this. When I get towards the keel there, I'll have to chisel those out or whatever. I won't be able to use a power plane there, but still I don't think it's going to be too bad. But yeah, I just don't know how to fare this out any better. Yeah, you're not going to be able to help me on that either, are you? And you can probably see how that, the second clamp from the end, right there, I think. It looks a little proud there, doesn't it? I don't know. And the next two in. Yeah, I don't know. And it's hard to get a real good sight line on this. I guess this is about as good as I'm going to get. But that one that I was saying that looks like it's proud, that's the... And then the boat takes a turn in, so... I don't know if you sight right down along them, it doesn't look that bad. I don't know. I guess it isn't going to be a thing of intense beauty anyway, but I'd like to get it so it looked, its lines looked relatively fair. So, I don't know, we'll see. But the big thing is, I guess, the planing down of these frame edges is going a lot better than I ever expected. And I didn't work on it that terribly long last night, and I got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them planed. And then a lot of these in here aren't going to need really hardly anything, because these are all pretty flat, and they will be until you start getting up into here. And here you can see these are going to need quite a bit. All these up here are going to be a lot more work, a lot more planing to do, a lot more wood to remove. But I think it'll work. Yeah, and this is what I'm kind of trying to come up with things to do now, since I'm waiting for my fuel tanks. And a week ago Monday, today is what, Tuesday, a week ago Monday he told me he would, when I talked to him, he said he'd get the tanks tacked up and then give me a call to come in and inspect them to make sure everything was where I wanted it. And of course it's been over a week and I haven't heard from him. So, I don't know. So if I start making deck beams, which would be nice to get these temporary supports out from up there. One other thing I've got to do is this transom, the top of the transom. It's got more arch to it, more curve than what I'm going to put in the deck. So that's got to come down, and it's also got a lot to take off to get that angle, because this transom sits back at 15 degrees, I think it is. So by the transom sitting back, that piece on the top has got a lot that inside edge up there, if you can see it, that inside edge up here is going to have to be planed down quite a bit too, and it's not an easy place to get at right now. So I might have to build myself a little bit of temporary scaffolding back there so I can get up there and get that planed down, get it cut down to the curve that I need, and then get it at the right angle. And then when I start putting those beams in up there, I need to establish the shear, the raised shear line. And, you know, in theory, I cut those exactly to the measurements that George gave, you know, the tops of the frames. I cut those exactly to the measurements, figuring I could, you know, bring the beams up, you know, quarter inch or half an inch or whatever, and then, you know, that would account for some minor irregularities in the frame heights up at the top there. And I think that'll be the case, but I don't know. I need to get, you can see I got a 2x4 laying up there on top of that to see how close they are. And it's not as, well, this one here you can see it's sitting up, it's probably an inch gap up there. But that's because this one back here needs to be cut down and trimmed. So we'll have to see how that goes, but that should be a more or less, I think, straight line across the top, at least to there. There, right? There. And then it's going to drop down. But I don't know. We are progressing ever so slowly. And you can see one of my frame screw ups here. I did glue in a shim strip here. That's gonna need to be planed down just a little bit too, but that was a mistake there. I obviously put my block on the framing table on the inside rather than the outside, or right on the line rather than on the inside, and then it was okay on this end, so I had to cut the taper in that. I really wanted to cut the angle into this at the same time, you know, cut the bevel into it, but that wasn't going to be very easy to do. My table saw, well, when you got this thing tapered, it's just, yeah, going to be easier to do it by hand with the plane and then finish it up with a chisel. But other than that, don't really have a whole lot else going on. So we'll leave it at that for June 29th.